I'm happy to say that today went a good way. To whoever's listening, sup? Hope all's well. Captain's log, third entry, I believe. Speaking of threes, three amazing things have happened since that dog followed me back home. One, I saved a hummingbird. Two, I saw Caleb again. And thirdly, but certainly not leastly, I saved a second hummingbird. I'm feeling pretty good. Let me start off with the hummingbirds. So, there's this barn here, right, that as far as barns go is quite well enclosed, and it has a skylight. So I'm poking around in there, trying to see what I could find, and I hear this sound. I thought it sounded sort of like bugs, flying into a wall, too stupid to know how to get out. I've seen grasshoppers do that a lot, but I can't see anything making a noise along the walls. So I look up toward the skylight, and there it is. A hummingbird, acting just like a grasshopper, trying to fly out of the skylight. I'd guess the ceiling was, like 20 feet high, I want to say. I opened up the doors in the front and the back of the barn, hoping that the little guy would just fly out on his own, but the dumb thing never did. Just kept flying into its own face, trying to go through the roof. I'm not sure why it can't just fly out. If I was guessing, I'd say maybe it has something to do with the light. Like it sees it from above, or maybe the brightness through the skylight was overwhelming its senses and it couldn't notice the open doors. Or it gave itself a concussion. I don't know, it could be anything. It did worry me, though, that it might die in there if I didn't get it out, because it was still pretty hot outside. So I pulled up a chair and waited, which worked perfectly. After about like a half hour or so, the hummingbird seemed to slow more and more down, and eventually it just glided gracefully down to where the floor and the wall met. It's a good thing I hung around too, because that's also when the dog found out that there was a bird trapped in the barn, and I'm pretty sure she would have eaten the whole thing. Now, I don't know much about hummingbirds, but I do find it amazing how much one can learn about something when they got it in their hands, Now, I swear, I was super careful, but when the hummingbird tired out and it got on the floor, I did walk over to it and picked it up. I had it enclosed there in my hand. It makes the absolute most adorable little chirping sound when it thinks it's about to die. It's virtually weightless, and its wings are faster than bullets, and it's got this really long sliver of a beak. It's fascinating. But the most striking feature, which you can't really see all that well when you're several feet away from it, but they're the feathers. They seem luminescent, almost, glimmery and shimmery, kind of like a hologram. Blue and green coming back and forth, trying to take over the other, but in a constant state of balance. Neither of them can win. At least that's how this hummingbird looked. It was beautiful. Inimitable, even. I could also say that they could fly backwards. I've never seen a bird do that before. It really truly is fascinating. Plus, it happened twice. During the last week, on 2 separate occasions, a hummingbird got trapped in this barn, but I am very happy to say that I was able to help it get out. For all I know, it was the exact same bird. Anyway, that was fun. Maybe next time a deer could get stuck in the barn. But what I really want to tell you about was the day before yesterday. Caleb stopped by. So it turns out there's this family running some mill, or it's a group of people or something. I don't know. Caleb didn't really go into the details all that much with me, but he did stay with them several nights. And he was telling me about these ideas they were talking about, like economizing the wood trade. Whatever that means. Monetizing would have to live in the world of the bartering system rather than currency, according to Caleb, because there were too few people still around. But maybe you got a few crops you could trade. Eggs, butter, if you know how to do that, for like a couple pieces of lumber. He talked about some kind of idea about developing a trade route too. I mean, don't get me wrong, as far as I knew, And Caleb will second this, certainly, but he's the only traitor, if you will, that I know of. And he's always in motion, so yeah, I don't know. I hope it works out for the guy. I had already actually set up a spot for him to rest if he ever did happen to drop by again, so he offered to stay a couple nights, which was nice. It was awesome. I wish I could adequately describe what it's like to have people around again. We took that for granted before shit hit the fan. So just imagining these other people, these people doing the lumber work, whoever they are, it's kind of cool. And Caleb did tell me that he did tell them about who I was, which should be okay, I'm sure. I haven't met them yet, and he is encouraging me to go meet them, saying they're pretty swell, to use his word. Not that it would have really taken a lot of convincing me to go meet them. I mean, it's something I'd be on board with. I would like to meet them, but I guess what I'm saying is he kind of made me feel nervous about it, because now I have this compulsion to, bring them a cake or a pie or something. I don't want to take them lasagna, because that's... I don't know. I just want to take them something, like a housewarming gift, Maybe I'll take them a hammer. So the first night before last, that Caleb was here, he showed me this old board game called Backgammon. Gun to my head, could not tell you a thing about it. I don't remember any of the rules, and it was way too complicated for me. There are these little round pieces. Some of them are light, some of them are dark, and somehow you're supposed to get all of your color back on your side. Personally, I prefer chess. But Caleb was so excited about it that he kind of just still made it fun. I think, and I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure he made up all the rules. Because after we played backgammon, he then asked me if I still had that deck of cards he had given me a while back, so I brought that out, and he taught me this new card game that he learned called Trade Shares, claiming it was some kind of a poker game, which I also lost at, but that's okay because we was just playing for rocks. But I think that Caleb thinks somehow I wasn't alive before the pandemic. Maybe because I never heard of backgammon before, but I've been to Vegas, before the collapse. And it's funny, humorously funny, to listen to, Caleb talk about things because he talks a lot, but this new card game of his sounds an awful lot like an old classic we used to call Texas Hold'em. But I didn't tell him about that. I didn't tell him that I knew how to play chess either. Nevertheless, he's a good guy. He seems to mean well. I don't know if he's got dementia, was traumatized, or just smokes a lot of weed, but he pretends like there's not much to be said more than 4 years ago. Kind of like nothing ever really happened. I mean, guy's older than I am. I won't lie, I was hoping to get a cool few stories out of him, from his younger years, but it's alright. I don't want to pressure the dude. He conked out a lot earlier than I did, and I didn't sleep all that well that night either, so. But yesterday morning, he surprised me again when he makes these 2 eggs out of his fanny pack. He got them from that Wooden Family. I found a cookie sheet and made a fire, so we cooked them on top of that. They tasted terrible. Probably because we burned them, but also because I don't believe he actually knows what scrambled eggs are. But after breakfast, Caleb went on and on about his trade route idea that he had with that family, and he was talking about how all he needed was more contacts and clients so that he could really be established. I just kind of nodded along, agreeing with him until he fell quiet, because that's when he said that all he needed to do was meet more people. Isn't that the truth? I'm the only person who stayed put in a place long enough for him to see a second time. And that's when I went silent. So we just sat there a few minutes, brooding, I guess, and then I had this idea. I tell him, hey, go back to the family, which for the record is 8 miles away. But I tell him, go back to the family and tell them I know that they know that I exist. And that I'll try to make a trip soon and see what's up. maybe all of us can help each other out. I know it sounds weird. I mean, it sure does to me, but I do agree with a fair exchange of services, right? It is, at the very least, the most fair. Greed just doesn't have the power it used to. Like that old phrase, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. People just have to learn how to get along, because if they don't, we'll all die. And besides, who's to say it will fail? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. This idea is just a start, something to start learning from. There's not many people around anymore, and there's more to rebuilding than just having babies. This morning he was gone. He didn't say anything, nothing like that, just disappeared. I fell asleep outside next to the fire we had made, and the dog had started licking my face. That's what woke me up. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but I hope that he left feeling good. You know, because I didn't say a whole lot about his wood trading idea. I didn't really know what to say. It'd be great if it could happen. Sure, wood's a great building material, especially good wood. If I could take part in something like that, that would make me feel amazing. So, yeah, I figure I'll try to at least meet those folks. I feel weird. Like I'm excited to meet some new folks, but I'm also nervous. Can't help but wonder what they're like, but you know what? I'm overthinking it. Shouldn't worry about the things that are not in your control. I'll keep y'all apprised of the situation as it goes on, but until then, stay true, be awesome, and do great things. Peace out, y'all.